Hi, everybody. It's Ryan from Ply Records, and I'm here with Wolfgang from Balu and Surfgrammein. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking.
Good. I was listening to some of your music. A standout track was, of course, Comanche. Uh, and although that brings back some moments for me from the '90s, but
Yeah, of course.
but tell me a little bit about how you started the band and how long you've been around.
Oh, well, actually, the band started, we're a family band, basically speaking. So
Oh,
it started out when our oldest son was pretty literate at playing the drums. He's Balu, actually. And I used to play the guitar as a teenager and in my 20s until I started working more or less. So we thought it would be nice to join a little bit. And an old friend of mine, Marcus, who was actually my biking buddy from mountain biking, he joined in as well. And then my wife, Balu's mom, said that she wanted to play something with us too. And as a matter of fact, she's a professional musician. So it is, let's say, was logical for her to play a fretless bass because she's a viola player, actually.
okay.
And so that's how we got started around 2012, actually. And we soon realized that no one is very good at singing. So that's why we decided to go for instrumental.
Everybody says that.
Well, I mean, it's good to know your limits, actually. No.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the music, the gritty guitar and just the way you play. Who are some of your influences as far as playing?
Well, I would say influence. It's too big a word. I have to admit, when I learned to play the guitar, it was in the 1980s. So we were all playing in hair metal bands or something like that, which is no longer appropriate, apparently. But so the one guitarist I really tried to copy was not a surf guitarist, but it was Peter Green
Okay.
of John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and um, yeah, and I tried to copy his tone a lot. So I learned most of, let's say, at least playing the electric guitar from listening to those old records from the 60s. Um, but of course, let's say, uh, instrumental music or surf music was always present for me. So in the 1980s, I'm 51 now. So in the 1980s, uh, which was a harsh time actually, if you wanted to if you
Yeah.
were into music. So one of the bands of the 80s I really adored as a teenager was Wall of Voodoo.
Oh yeah.
And Wall of Voodoo had this, they were a new wave band, but they had this heavy reverb lead guitar, actually a Flying V of Mark Moreland, with some kind of a, let's say, spaghetti western vibe. And I was also, let's say, heavily, what was, let's say, modern at that time was the garage punk revival. So like Fuzz-Tones, Miracle Workers, Cynics, and all those bands. And as that was the music I was listening to when I was a teenager, I started collecting also the old samplers of garage punk, like the Pebble samplers and stuff. And soon, alongside with that, I came into, let's say, surf music samplers, like the um, Surf Creature samplers from which were around in the late 80s, early 90s. So that's how I got into touch with surf music and how I, let's say, learned to, yeah, get used to this surf music guitar style somehow.
Yeah.
So it's most likely not less sticktail and more new wave and British blues guitarists and stuff like that.
That's an interesting combination.
it turned out to be like that. So I'm from Austria, which is a landlocked country, and apparently surf music never played a role in it.
Well, it's funny because some landlocked surf bands say they're from the middle of the United States, the Midwest, and some of the
Like the astronauts, who's probably
yeah,
the most famous ones. Yeah.
yeah, and some live in kind of arid areas, uh, and they use that to their advantage. You know, they talk about like the Western, sand dunes being the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So maybe I could talk about avalanches and snow or something like that. But honestly speaking, I never had too much of this association. Also, I'm from Vienna, which doesn't feature any mountains nor avalanches. So, uh, well, it's more about the music and say less about the lifestyle or landscape or something like
Yeah.
that.
I see the poster of the attack of the 50-foot woman in the background.
Yeah,
I used
I
to
was
watch
also
that
had
with
always
I used to watch it with my aunt when I was a little boy.
when I was about 5 years old, which was a long time ago. I still remember. That's actually the other formative thing. If we talk about, I remember that my parents used to have a little black and white TV, so like those portable TVs people had way back in the 70s. And I was going to kindergarten. I was not yet in primary school, but I was sick and I was staying at home. And my mom went shopping or something like that. So I turned on the TV in the morning program. And the one movie that was shown there was Them, which is this 1950s horror movie of giant ants attacking Los Angeles. That's also one of my earliest childhood memories, actually. So yeah, so this, let's say, kind of B movie, campy trash movie thing is also something I grew up with.
Awesome. I love that you mentioned it's a family band. Um, so you find it very easily. I'm sure you speak the same language when it comes to music. Is that correct?
Not really. I mean, Balu and I, yes, because somehow he was raised on my records and he knew all the music I'm listening to. But my wife, being a classical musician, she did not really have that background, but she decided to like it and she quickly adopted. Meanwhile, we had for 4 years a third guitarist, was Balus' best friend, Fabio, who's taken a break from the band now. So we're back to two guitars. But we never had a real problem in, say, let's getting along in the style of music, because in the end, the nice thing about instrumental music or surf music is it's not something you necessarily need to be very dedicated to in order to enjoy it. So it's not like, let's say, jazz, which is probably fun to play, but at least for me, not fun to listen to. Or let's say some special style of, let's say, grindcore metal, which is can be fun to play. I'm not saying that, but it's not for everyone. Surf music is a little bit more simple. So even if you don't have, let's say, an audience that's dedicated to this style of music, which is ridiculous to expect because such a small segment. But even if you don't, that we never had, let's say, big issues having people coming to our concerts, listening to the music, and having a good time. So yeah, maybe it's let's say it's surf music is kind of convenient music, and it's even a little bit of a challenge to, let's say, keep it on a certain level, not to make it too nice, too comfy, too simple. Actually, we're trying to do that sometimes. I don't know where we succeed. Always tend to say that we're trying to make grumpy surf music.
Grumpy
Because
surf
Viennese
music.
people are said to be, Viennese people are said to be very grumpy and harsh. So we try to make it a little bit less.
So, how has the response been when you guys play out?
Well, we never, I mean, there was let's say we've played about, we're not a professional band, so we played about maybe 50 shows or something like that in our career so far, which is almost for 10 years, actually speaking. So we're a hobby band. And of course, we had a few of those gigs where not too many people showed up. We had gigs where a lot of people showed up, but we never had a gig where people were disappointed. And I'm pretty happy about this. So I don't care if I play in front of 5 people, or the most was probably something like 300, as long as people are dancing or having a good time or as long as it's being an amusement. So I don't have, let's say, that this hopes for being, let's say, considered an artist or something like that. It's just more about, let's say, yeah, having a good time, having a few beers, listening to nice music, and we get pretty well along with that. So yeah, it works kind of.
It's very high energy music, would you say?
Yes, I mean that's maybe because we have, of course, by nature, Kati is my wife, the bass player, and my friend Marcus. We're older, but we have a very young drummer, so maybe that's the source
Ah,
of the drive.
it's good because he pretty much holds the key of how which way the band goes.
Yeah. He is. I mean, that's something. Probably it's the only thing I learned about being in a band when I was younger. I was never, let's say, a fully professional musician, but the one thing I learned by heart is always to stick to the drummer. And if the bass, the guitars, and the drummer form on it, then this can take you quite far. This can become, let's say, pretty massive. So even it was even more massive when we were 3 guitars, but like when we played at Surfer Joe's festival in Livorno, but still with, let's say, if you form a unit with the drummer, and I really think that in rock and roll music, the drummer is the key to the
Yeah,
music, more or less. If you form a unit in a sense that you really stick to the drummer, that you listen to him, but then if you're very tight, then you can't go wrong. So no matter what kind of music you play, you can, let's say, you can rest assured that this will work as rock and roll somehow. So yeah, I really think that the drummer is the key. It's not the guitarist,
yeah,
it's certainly not the singer, because that's something that's not very common with us, but yeah, the key is the drummer.
awesome.
That's
So
what we
you
also
play,
called Balu and the Surfgrammein, so we're the band for the drummer.
yeah, that's awesome. Uh, so you played Surfer Joe Festival. Did you get to meet a lot of bands and see a lot
Yes,
of great bands?
yeah, it's not too far from us, so I really hope that it will happen again in the near future, hopefully. It's for us, it's a day trip going there, and I've been attending it since 2014 or 15. So uh, for me, it was really a unique experience, and probably one of the funniest gigs we ever did, playing in Livorno, because it's simply an event where you just don't do anything else but drinking beer and listening to surf music for 4 days, which is that's I mean that's pretty cool, actually, right? At
Yeah.
least it means being dedicated. Maybe after the 4 days, you might get, let's say, might to stop listening to music and stop drinking beer for a while, but yeah, which is natural as well.
How old is Balu?
Blue is 25. 25? Yes, he's 25.
Okay, so he
So
was
yeah,
he was drinking some beer too.
he's Austrian, so he's used to it. Oh, it's like milk. Czechia, Austria, Germany. We don't have too much issues about that.
So, what's it like when you play out in Austria, in Vienna, especially, when it comes to playing with other musicians? Do you have a lot of surf music, instrumental music that you play with?
Well, actually, no, there's not too many surf music bands. We did actually, 1 second, we did a sample of Austrian surf music.
Ah, that's a pretty cool cover.
Yeah, we published this in 2018. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's me and Dave of Dave and the Pussies sitting in front of a table. And so let's say the one band we play most with is Dave and the Pussies from Tyrol. And there's also another Viennese band called Sonodrome Express. So, but in total, Austria being a small country, our surf music scene is also not that big, actually. But yeah, we don't necessarily, let's say, we play with all kinds of bands. We consider ourselves a rock and roll band. So I can get along with a punk band in a punk venue as well, and it works. If you stick with the drummer, you can rest assured that you can form some sort of a rock and roll band, and usually this works.
Awesome. Now I found some of your music on iTunes, and for what you say being a hobby band, you put a lot of work out there. You put a lot of songs out there.
Well, that works with our label, Plan 9 Trash Records. So that's something Walter of Plan 9 Trash Records does. He takes care of the publication with all these modern media, whereas we're only producing vinyls. So we produced our first record in 2015. That was a 10-inch called Los Chicharrones del Surf, which is Spanish for our band name, Grammeln, or pork rinds, chicharrones. And then we did the sampler with the other bands. Latent Surfers is one band called there, and our friends, the Good Hair Brothers, of which I'm apparently not a member. So, and in 2020, we made a double 7-inch. This is really lovely. I love that one. It's a tiny little double album.
Do you have a copy of it?
If you give me a second, yes.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
So that's the 10-inch, the Chicharrones, with a cover of Sean Dickinson. And this is our latest offering, which is a double 7-inch with a photo love story inside. Isn't
so
it
awesome.
gorgeous?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's a double album in a sense that it features two little 7-inches. So it's probably the smallest Austrian double album for surf music ever made.
There's a band called the Ravenettes that that did the same thing with a song called Into the Night. They put out a double 7-inch. I think it's a brilliant idea.
It is extremely expensive, and certainly we will never be able to pay the debt off, but it doesn't matter.
So the 10-inch is my favorite format.
True.
Because not everybody does it. When you come across one, it's kind of special to hold in your hand and kind of put the needle on the record.
There's also something, it's also something different about it. Is, I mean, if you're not, let's say, deeply into one style of music, then you might find, let's say, a full album of surf music tedious, boring even. I don't, but people may think so because it doesn't change, all sounds the same. And a 10-inch with 3 songs on it, that's just perfect. So no one can complain that it's too short. It's not too long. Yeah, and it's an eye catcher because it's a fun format. Yeah, that's true. 7 inches are funny as well, but they're whoever sits at home and gives a 7-inch a listen, because you have to hop on and off all the time. But for
Yeah.
a 10-inch, it works quite well. Yes.
Exercise.
Yeah. But still, yeah. But I'm really here in my home office, in my working room. So I'm a lecturer, actually a professor of physics,
Oh wow.
and given medical physics actually. So given the situation with all the pandemic stuff, I'm confined here for 1.5 years more or less, giving all my lectures via Zoom and stuff. So
Oh
I have
wow.
a record player running all the time in the back, which is that's
Awesome.
so to say my soundtrack for work. But then 7 inches would really be a mess.
Yeah.
Every 3 minutes.
You put on a good comp and that'll take you a little while.
Yeah. Or maybe place of Wurlitzer, but it's too big. Yeah.
So what's it like being a medical physicist and being a musician at the same time? What kind of things do you do as a medical physicist?
I'm working in a hospital, in a university hospital, and we're basically, let's say, responsible for things like tumor irradiation and all these kinds of diagnostics, like um, MRI, PET scans, stuff like that. So this is our area of research and also our area of clinical work. So we're dabbling with the quality assurance issues and those planning and stuff. So yeah, it doesn't have to do a lot with music or arts. It's
Yeah.
it's a medical physicist thing. So yeah, I see the two a little bit separated, but yeah, it's a
How
living. I was young, I needed the money, so I became a medical physicist.
well you make that sound easy, but not everybody could be a physicist.
Yeah, let's say that's my. I think this is maybe the one connection to playing guitar in a surf band is both things are very nerdy. So you have to be quite a nerd to say compare reverb units and so for instance, I have about 7 or 8 of them, all different kinds of tube reverb and solid state reverbs, and so this is probably the one connecting thing is the nerdiness about the whole thing. And trying different string gauges and different pickups and stuff, which is not that important because I'm preferring to play with a flying V as well. So I'm probably one of the very few people playing in a surf band with a non-Fender guitar.
But you definitely it brings back memories of the Shanker Brothers.
Never my style, but Mark Mullen of Wall of Voodoo. Let's
Oh,
put it
okay.
that way.
Mexican radio.
Yeah. Yeah, the Link Ray actually also played a Firebird, right? So Link Ray is
Yes.
also, let's say, yeah, someone, a musician or let's say an artist whose music was always around for me, that always came to my mind ever since I've heard it for the first time a long time ago. So I don't feel too guilty about this Flying V and Firebird thing. So, but
It's well, it's also really important to play a guitar that feels comfortable when you hold it, right?
that's true, and that's my major issue. I'm pretty physical, so I need a big guitar, like Jaguar. I look like the fat kid from primary school, having, let's say, the lunchbox around its neck and it's shortly below the chin or something like that. So it's like more like a ukulele for me, and therefore, yeah. So like Flying V Fire, but this is a long guitar with a long body. It's like a little bass, that feels good for me. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Can say stretch out a little bit.
So, well, are you writing new music as we speak?
Yes, we're trying to, let's say, use the break that is forced upon us to, let's say, be a little bit more productive. Being the hobbyists we are, let's say, we once write a song every few months and rehearse when we do a concert. So this is not let's say, we're not very industrial, given that. But right now, yeah, we're writing new songs. We want to make our first LP after doing all those 7 inches and compilations and 10 inches. We think that after 10 years, it would be a good idea to make finally an LP. At least it's not, let's say, no one could say that that we're doing it in haste.
Yeah.
So that's what we're preparing for. We're just doing a split single with our friends of Dave and the Pussies, where we cover each other. So
Oh,
it's a
I love
tribute
that.
to each other. So two Austrian surf bands playing a tribute to each other. Actually, Dave and I was sitting here in the office, and we also came along with a very innovative cover idea. Like a mixture of Led Zeppelin 1 and probably this the first album by Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, with all those burning police cars. Yeah, probably not the most innovative cover of all times, but Dave and I were pretty happy about it. But maybe we were also a little bit illuminated.
So that's great. One thing I liked what you said was you put your stuff out on vinyl. Is that a special thing? Some special kind of feeling you get out of having a physical copy in your hands, especially vinyl?
Absolutely. I was always. I never got rid of any of my vinyls, aside from those that I didn't like. So I still have the records I had as a teenager. Right here, I have behind me. Just dug it up yesterday. One of the records I bought as a 17 years old, garage punk stuff. I still have those around, and they're so fond memories. They're really, let's say, companions. And I never really got into the CD thing, left alone at MP3s or stuff like that. I always preferred this. For me, this was always, let's say, a central event, or let's say a central thing in my life. Going to a record store, going to, let's say, some sort of a record fair, getting a few albums. I'm not having tens of thousands of them, 2,000, but so I'm keeping it on a level. But yeah, it's the one medium for music, in my opinion. I don't like CDs. I don't even have a CD player. I don't want to listen to music on my computer with little squeaky, in German we call them Brüllwürfel, so little squeaky boxes. No. So yeah, music should be on records, should be on vinyls. That's my opinion.
I agree 100%. So is there anything you'd like to talk about that we might not have touched on before we sign off?
Well, what's your background? How did you get interested in surf music and doing your Pi Records thing and stuff?
Well, my my mother's brothers, my uncles, the two brothers were in instrumental bands when I was before I was born, and in the I want to say in the 60s,
Okay.
the late 60s, and one played a Moss right
Okay.
and the other one played a Strat. And I never got to hear them, but I always heard the
Okay. Of
stories,
course.
and they gigged a lot, and they were really good, and they still to this day play their guitars just as
Mm,
just as a hobby,
okay.
and most of their songs were surf songs that they would
Okay.
play, covers, a couple originals. My dad was a DJ his whole life since he was 16. He
Okay.
lost his parents when he was 16, and then he rented an apartment and started DJing right away up until he passed away at 58. And at a young age, I saw Eddie Van Halen,
Mm,
uh, and I wanted to play guitar. So
okay.
I started playing guitar, and then I went to college and got into punk rock. And when I got out of college, I got into TV production. And after seeing interviews all the time and every day, I said, that's something I can do. But I never really had an outlet to do it.
Hmm.
I didn't know who to interview. And one day I just said, I called up my friend Scott from the band All the Descendants, and I asked him to do an interview, and it went so well. So I started messaging all these people, and it seems to me that a lot of surf bands don't get to do video interviews. So I said, I think I'll go the surf route since I love that music so much, and it meant a lot to me when I was growing up. The Ventures, especially Link Ray, the Lively Ones. Um, so I was really into that aspect. I wanted to do a
Mm,
news. I wanted to do a news program online because I have a news background, and since I couldn't, I guess, afford to buy a camera or a drone to do the local stories, it eventually dawned on me I could do interviews about stuff I love, which is music. So that's how I ended up doing that.
okay. Sounds like a pretty good reason, actually.
Yeah. And I just love talking about music. And one of the most important things is, and I was thinking about this last night, I have a very I have a difficult time in like real life speaking to people, meeting people, and this kind of breaks down that barrier for me and makes me, I'm trying to work on becoming a little bit more um conversational in my real life, and I think this helps a lot.
Okay. Sounds legend.
So I want to thank you so much, Wolfgang. I had a great time talking to you and listening to your story. Um,
Thank you very much, Ryan.
and I loved hearing your music today, and throughout the week. Actually, I love that you put out a 10-inch because it's my favorite medium. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ryan, for the opportunity of my telling my story about the Blues Breakers and the Flying V's.
Awesome. Well, you have a good rest of your day, sir.
Thank you very much. You too.